let's talk about it in this video. So basically today, because in these days I've been doing so many lives, there were some guys that looking at me, they noticed that I was tired. And doing some researches for me, basically, they noticed that one of the main reasons could be the sugar intake. And well, they could be right, they could be wrong. Let's discover it after the set. So, basically, what happened? It happened that basically I was in these days very tired, and an amazing guy from the Italian channel basically did some researches for me. But unfortunately, of course, talking about sugars, he went through like all the this information that there is about sugars, because in the online world basically, when we pick up an enemy, so let's say something to blame, well, at that point it's easy to find even a solution. And the sugars are, especially in the fitness and nutrition industry, well, one of the favorite, the main enemies. So what is true and what is not about the sugar intake, feeling weak, and especially in my situation? Well, if you don't know me, nice to meet you, I'm Daniel, the Italian coach. And every day I try to share something useful for you guys in personal development in general, but well, more about fitness and nutrition as well. And well, let's talk about this. So the guy did some researches and talking about sugars, he noticed that they can affect our health in different ways, especially energy-wise. But in that case, we talk about a condition like diabetes, etc. And we will cover it even today. Yeah, just a second, let me do the other set. Yeah, it's not the easiest part to do the video this way, yeah? Okay, talking about sugars. So, what happened with the sugars? If we eat sugars, nothing really happens. So, after that you take some sugars, your sugar level in the blood basically will rise. So you have a glycemic spike that has as consequence an insulin spike, because insulin basically will be released from the pancreatic cells in order to reduce the amount of sugar in the blood. That's it. Is this a positive or negative thing? Well, it's a normal thing. This will happen every time, because it's the role of the insulin basically. When we eat more sugars, we have more sugar in the blood, it's the role of the insulin to put it down in a certain way. When it's problematic then? Well, is it problematic when we are very unbalanced and our body cannot control anymore the amount of sugar in the blood? So what happens? Let's say that we have the GLUT4. GLUT4 are basically the sugar receptor in the cells, and they are mainly in the muscular cells and the fat cells. So there is a kind of contrast. But when the contrast is healthy, so we have enough muscle, well, the sugar in the blood will be captured in a certain way. Let's talk in a simple way. Will be captured by the muscular cell. And well, in contrast, even the fat cells will take the sugars basically in the blood. But when we are very unbalanced, for example, we are overweight or obese and the muscular level are very low, well, there is an imbalance that will lead overall to a negative situation. A situation where basically our cells will be full of energy in a certain way and they don't need any more the sugar. So the sugar will stay in the blood cells, in the bloodstream, sorry. And this is the point. When it's too much and the sugar is literally in the blood, our cells don't need to capture it because they are full already. So what's the point at that point? And what the body does, we release more and more insulin in order to make them capture this glucose, but this will happen until a certain point. After a while, when it's too much and we are not able to capture it anymore, well, we're going forward like a condition called insulin resistance, basically. That is when basically we are not able to take anymore because we release too much insulin. Basically, we cannot capture sugar anymore, and we go forward like a resistance, literally. And on the long term, this will lead to the diabetes. Yeah, diabetes type 2, though. Just be careful about it. And well, just a second. So what are these limits? Talking about numbers, we develop diabetes when basically the blood levels, the sugar levels basically in the blood, will overcome the threshold of 126 milligrams for deciliters. I don't know if in UK it's the same, like the units, but should be this one, should be the same basically. I know that every country has different like in the system basically, but at least in Italy is 126 milligrams for deciliter of blood. And when is like the threshold where we need to pay attention? Well, when this overcomes 100 milligrams for deciliters of blood. So between 100 and 126 is the dangerous zone when we need to be careful, because after 126, and of course I'm talking about empty stomach, like in the morning, not after a meal, because after a meal it's normal that your blood sugars will rise a lot. That's totally normal, even if you're healthy, so it doesn't matter, to be honest. So you just need to pay attention on the long term in that quantity. That's it. And what happens if you're healthy and you eat sugars? Nothing. You just enjoy. Because we need to differentiate the physical health and the mental health as well. So physical health, if you're active and if you work out, etc. Well, if you are in a good weight zone, let's say, so you're not overweight, not obese, well, there is no problem. There is no problem at that point, because you will take sugars and, well, consume it. Yes, of course, it's better to balance. The recommendations are always 10-15% of the caloric intake. So 10% of your caloric intake is the threshold for the sugar intake. And for sugar, we mean the added sugar, basically. So don't count about fruit, don't count about veggies, etc. Because they are, even though they contain sugar, they are not sugar. So keep in mind this thing. That said, if you're healthy, just follow a simple thing, a simple rule, 80-20. So take 80% of clean food, whatever it means, but means like more veggies, healthy food, let's say, even though healthy is very relative. And 20%, well, enjoy what you like. Let's say even 10%, doesn't matter, but if you want to take a chocolate bar, an ice cream, whatsoever, just enjoy it. Because if you don't consider this healthy, well, remember that it's healthy for your mind, and this is very important as well. That said, just follow basically the simple rule of the body. So the body weight is stable, is rising, or is going down. These are the three things that you need to check. If it's rising, well, maybe you should eat less. Except if you are underweight, you need to eat more. Yeah. So let's say you are in a normal condition. So your body weight is normal, like BMI is in the normal caloric, in the normal zone, etc. So if it's rising, just be careful to not exaggerate. If it's going down, well, you should eat a bit more. If it's stable, what you need to do is just continue like this, no problem at all. Just balance the amount of carbs, fat, and protein. Remember the rule: 50% carbs, 20% protein, and 30% fat in the average. If you are athletic, if you work out a lot, maybe you can rise a little bit the protein and can do 50, 20% fat and 30% protein, for example. If you are very, very athletic, etc., well, you perhaps may need more carbs at that point. So yeah, it's very different for everyone. If you prefer even fat, take more fats. It's very simple. Just follow like the simple stuff. And well, that's it. So that said, what we should do? Eating food rich of fruit and vegetables, definitely. Eating sugars like other sugars, well, with moderation. That's it. Very simple rules. What else we can consider about it? Well, considering the fact that we always seek to find an enemy, sugar are not like a right enemy, because our body needs sugar in a certain way, and everything is composed in sugar in our body. So we need to keep in mind this simple thing. Of course, moderation is important, and even eating like more natural food, less processed food is a good thing, to be honest. But you don't need to be scared of sugar. They are not bad for you, because you will transform everything into sugar, basically. So why I was worried about the sugar intake in my case? Well, I share every day videos of what I do, and well, I'm not eating even sugar, to be honest. I was thinking what I normally eat, and they are mainly fruit and vegetables. So yeah, there are no sugars in there. So why I was worried? Because seeing me like always tired, it's normal that I was thinking that I was eating too much sugar, is a consequence of it, etc. But no, the truth is that I'm in a very strong caloric deficit, and that's normal to feel like with less energy. Plus, I'm trying to compensate for personal reason, because it's my preference, because it's a very important period for me and I need to push a lot. So I'm trying to compensate this caloric deficit with more caffeine. And the caffeine, of course, will give you like extra energy on the short term. But in the long term, excessive amount of caffeine will have the opposite effect, because when you have like the withdrawal effect, so you're on a low caffeine state, basically, you feel still less energetic than before. So consider these elements. So sugar is not the problem, not even my case. So take it easy, take it in moderation, just enjoy, guys. I'll see you soon.